It's Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are excited to be here with you for the next couple of hours discussing local, regional, and national sports. So stick around here on this happy hump day. Wade, what's up?
What's happening? Good to see you. Good to see everybody. And looking forward to a big show, kind of smack dab, as you said, right in the middle of a busy week here in Main Street land.
Absolutely. Busy week at the high school level, busy week at the collegiate level. We had college football last night. Busy week professionally. There's a lot going on this time of year, and
Best time of the year.
it really is. If you are in this industry, it keeps you hopping. But hey, it's kind of what you live for. So we are going to dive into it in the next hour. We will visit with ANWAR Richardson of orangebloods.com because the Texas Longhorns have a pretty big game coming up this weekend, and figured we might need to talk a little bit about it. Number 5, Georgia visits Austin, taking on the top-ranked Texas Longhorns. So again, ANWAR is going to give us a little insight into that. Because the SEC has been crazy.
Could be an elimination game this weekend for Georgia if they're not careful.
Yeah, or it could just introduce further chaos if Georgia were to go out here and get a win, because that would be Texas's first loss, and there'd be suddenly a bunch of folks with one loss. So it's definitely a game that will bear watching on Saturday. And again, ANWAR will give us some insight into that. In the next segment, we will be joined by our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. We will get her thoughts on Charlotte. She was on hand for that one. And the playoff field is now down to 8 as they go out to Vegas this weekend. So she can give us some thoughts on that. Heather joined the ranks of the play-by-play announcers this weekend as well. Wade, she did the Northeast Tennessee Friday night rivals ball game up there, so maybe y'all can exchange some tips and that kind of thing.
Undoubtedly, she did a great job, and I'll have to scour the web and pull some clips and see how she did.
Absolutely. We've got MLB playoffs going on as rumors of a certain slugger's postseason demise may have been greatly exaggerated, as the Guardians unfortunately found out last night. Got some other Major League Baseball tidbits to get into. A lot going on off the field in the NFL, as if what's going on the field ain't enough. So we'll touch on some of that here later in the show as well. And it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe in our final segment of the show. So stick around for that. You won't want to miss it. It is riveting. Trust me. Am I wrong, Wade?
Always delivers one of the favorite segments of the week, because you can pretty much bank on something catching you off guard that you didn't bank on.
Absolutely. So that's what we're looking like here for the next bit. So let's go ahead. Now that you know what to look forward to, let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of it with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
To the Wednesday rundown we go. We open up with scores from last night, and we start with volleyball, where Blackman was the 3-2 winner versus Cookeville. Eagleville defeated Bledsoe County. Sale Creek on top of Eagleville 3-2. It was East Robertson taking care of York Institute. 3-1 was your final there. Brentwood in straight sets, 3-0 versus Lawrence County. It was also 3-0 Stone Memorial defeating Murfreesboro Central Magnet. Brentwood followed up that first win with another one. This time had to work for it, though, 3-2. But they do take care of Nolensville in a good contest. Nolensville got to the championship game by their 3-0 win versus Lincoln County. other scores, it was Blackman 3, Riverdale 1, and then Riverdale defeated Lebanon 3-1 as well to cap your volleyball scores from last night.
Girls soccer action. These are region semifinals, I do believe. Cascade defeated Richland 5-0. Cheatham County with a 4-0 win over Huntington. It was Fairview 6, Chester County 1. Huntland with a 3-2 victory over Culleoka. Coverage of that one at mainstreetmurray.com. Clarksville 8, Dixon County 1. University School of Nashville defeated Grace Christian of Knoxville 3-1. Hendersonville with a 6-0 victory over Overton. Gallatin blanked Hillsborough 3-0. Liberty Creek blanked Cannon County 9-0. It was Franklin 6, Lincoln County nothing. Merrill Hyde 9, STEM Academy nothing. Page 5, Columbia Central nothing. Wow. Rossview with a 5-0 win over Henry County. It was Siegel 3, Lebanon nothing. Smith County edged White House Heritage 1-0. Station Camp with a 7-0 win over Martin Luther King. Oakland 2, Stewart's Creek nothing. Sycamore 5, McNary Central nothing. University School of Jackson with a 10-1 win over Providence Christian. Congratulations to Providence Christian for scoring, because Valor Collegiate blanked White House 1-0, and it was Westview 4, Harpeth nothing. In Major League Baseball last night, Cleveland did score, but they did lose to the Yankees 6-3 in Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. More to come on that one. On the ice at Bridgestone Arena, the Preds continue to struggle. And it was 3-3 at one point before the Kraken was released. 7-3. They wound things out with a empty netter to get to the 4-goal victory there. Seattle defeating the Predators again 7-3. Middle Tennessee State breaks through on the college gridiron with a 14-5 win over Kennesaw State. Yes, 14-5. There was a safety. It was 7-2 for the longest in this one. But
ugly game, but wins are wins, and
there's no
gets one.
Absolutely.
As I got a light schedule for you guys tonight, but if you're looking for baseball, you're in good luck as the Dodgers and Mets resume their series, now shifting back over to the East Coast. Game 1 went in favor of the Dodgers. Game 2 to the Mets. Game 3 gets underway at 7:08 tonight on FS1. WNBA action tonight. Speaking of 1-1 series, the Liberty now travel to Minnesota, and a pivotal game in that showdown that gets underway again at 7 o'clock. You can catch it on ESPN. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our schedule for today, and that concludes the Wednesday Rundown.
Your top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And congratulations to former Vanderbilt men's basketball standout Scottie Pippen, who after playing on a two-way contract with the Memphis Grizzlies last season, has been upgraded to a fully guaranteed contract, multi-year contract with the Grizzlies. 4-year deal, first 2 seasons guaranteed. Will back up Ja Morant at the point, Scottie Pippen will. And, you know, given Ja's history, there's some job security in being Ja Morant's backup.
Yeah, good bit of business here, and a nice in-kind bit of business for the Grizzlies. Scottie Pippen Jr. had been a solid rotation guy, but he was on that deal there. Now they get to upgrade him. Really, Derrick Rose is the one we should all be thanking, because by departing here and opening up that roster spot, he allows Pippen Jr. to get that new contract, to get the fully guaranteed deal here, which, as you mentioned, is going to be clutch, because Morant, at his best, probably, as we've been told, going to play around 65, maybe 72 games-ish. At his worst, you never know what you're going to get out of that guy. So having Pippen Jr., who they like in Memphis, as the backup is a good deal here. Good move by everybody.
Started the final 11 games of the season for the Grizzlies last year. As you know, they were racked by injuries, not just to Ja, but pretty much across that roster. And so he really gave them some consistency late in the season last year. Averaged 15 points, 5 assists per game in April, and then went to the summer league where he averaged 21.5 points and 8.7 assists. So, it's not like they went out on a limb with this. I mean, the guy has produced in a short period of time for the Grizzlies and has been rewarded for that. So again, congratulations to him. And, this is just another young piece of Memphis's puzzle, looks like.
Absolutely. Marcus Smart, the only guy that's 30 years or above, and he's right at 30. So this is still one of the younger teams in the league. And you get Pippen pulled up, and now also what that does, that frees up another two-way deal for somebody else to maybe get involved. And, Gigi Jackson is injured, but we've seen him kind of take on that role to great success. Memphis has had, at least in the last 2 years, some pretty good flourishing, if you will, from these two-way deals. So this is a nice bit of business here. Shams dropping the news yesterday, but it kind of felt like it was inevitable once Rose retired because that roster spot was now available. That frees up Memphis to make this move. And as you said, Pippen, well-deserved, and also he's a key piece of their puzzle going forward.
Yeah, and as you talk about the Grizzlies and their backcourt and somebody that this might free up for a two-way deal, there is a kid on that team, Yuki Kuramara, who has really created a lot of buzz. Kawamura, excuse me, over this preseason has really created a lot of buzz. 5'8" guard, 5'8", 160, out of Japan. A threes and an assist guy, seems like. Undrafted free agent, but had 10 points against Indiana a couple of nights ago. Shot 3 of 7 from 3. Has had 20 plus minutes in each of their last 2 outings, and they really seem to like him, man. So look for him to maybe sew up that two-way deal that they've got there.
He could be a candidate. They've got a couple guys that they like. And Kawamura, you remember from the Olympics, man, they got screwed, I ain't going to lie, versus France in the Olympics. But he absolutely was a key part of that. And he was the one that gets dinged on that bogus 4-point play that France gets down the stretch to win that game. Kind of burst onto the scene there. He's only 5'8", but he is explosive as all get out. And if he does end up on the active roster, he will be a fan favorite undoubtedly in Memphis.
No doubt. In addition to that 10 points a couple of nights ago against the Pacers, also 7 assists. So he can knock it down from behind the arc, and he likes to give it up as well. So, and like you said, at 5'8", an obvious fan favorite if he does get on the floor for the Grizzlies. So kind of keep an eye on that cat. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we'll talk a little NASCAR as Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City joins us, so stay tuned after this break. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. Happy to be with you and happier to have with us Heather Williams. That's play-by-play announcer Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. Heather, in the booth this past Friday night. Who did you have, Heather?
I did a game in Virginia between Ridgeview, they were undefeated at the time, and Union, which is probably considered to be the top, one of the top 2 or 3 Class 2 schools in Southwest Virginia. Their only losses were to Graham, which is a multiple-time Class 2 state champion, and then 6A Science Hill out of Tennessee.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how was
it? Good game, it sounds like.
Yeah.
It was a great game until late, and then Union just pulled away. I would say that Ridgeview didn't have their best offensive night. They have a 4-year starter at quarterback, which, for a kid to start as freshman, especially in the Mountain 7, which is one of the top Class 2, really one of the top conferences in all of Virginia. But he started since he was a freshman, and he didn't have a great game. So Union was able to pull away a little bit in the second half, thanks to some turnovers and some really good play by their defenses. Going into this game, these two defenses Union gave up 10 points per game, and Ridgeview was giving up 3.5 points per game. So stingy defenses, and it was an entertaining game, but probably not as close as I had hoped it would be.
So what was it like for you? I think you said that it was your first football play-by-play and your first play-by-play of any sort since doing some independent baseball years and years and more years ago down in Mississippi. How was it for you?
Not like riding a bike. I was a little rusty coming out of the gate, but I got into a groove. It was fun. It was really fun. I've done a lot of live broadcasts, but being a female, most of my roles have been either in the color commentary or in the play sideline / pit reporter, that kind of genre. So to get the opportunity to do play-by-play was really cool. I wish it was under better circumstances. Our normal play-by-play guy who does the games on Friday, who is phenomenal. I mean, he's really good. He had a death in the family, so he wasn't able to go. So I kind of stepped in at the last minute. But it was great. I would love to do it again sometime for sure.
Awesome. Heather, you told us last week that you were heading over to Charlotte. Were you able to make it over there to see Kyle Larson take care of business?
I did make it over there, and it's a funny story about the trip. You know, I had to get up super early. It's about a 3-hour drive from here to the track. So I got up. I left about 7. The race is over. You know, Kyle wins, goes by pretty fast. It's about 7:30, and I'm like, this is great. I'm going to be back in Bristol before midnight. I'm in the parking lot when I get a tip. You might want to come back to the media center. The 48 has just been disqualified. So I did not get back to
At least you were still in the parking lot.
I was still in the parking lot. I had not left yet. The person was like, thank God you're in the parking lot. I thought you maybe had already made it to the interstate or whatever, but no, just in the parking lot. So I didn't get back to Bristol until almost 2:00 in the morning, but it was worth it for my story not to be wrong, right? Because I had done this story about Alex Bowman advances, and here's the guys that missed it, and Joey Logano's out, and that changed very quickly.
Yeah. Tell us more about Bowman.
So his car was underweight. The cars have to be a certain amount of weight. And, you know, they take into consideration, they want all the cars to weigh the exact same amount with the driver in it. So, you know, if you have a lighter driver, your car has to be heavier. If you have a heavier driver, your car can be a little bit lighter because they want them all on the track to weigh the same amount. So his car was underweight. They give them 0.5% of a give and take because things happen. You know, you lose a piece of sheet metal or whatever. So they give them that. It was probably not very shocking is that the teams will usually take a good chunk of that. It equals out to about 17 pounds. So a lot of teams will, and I'm not saying this is what the Bowman team did, but I'm just saying that teams might come in at 15 pounds, you know, underweight, knowing they have that give and take. And in Bowman's case, I think that they probably did do something like that based on the statement they made afterwards, which said they cut the margins too short. Because they were more than 17 pounds underweight. NASCAR actually gave them a chance to flush all the fluids out of the car, replace the fluids so that, you know, it's completely full of fuel because all that counts in your weight. Actually gave them 2 chances to do that. They did it twice. It was still underweight. So that's why Hendrick Motorsports decided not to appeal because they did have an opportunity to appeal the ruling, but I guess they felt like they weren't going to win the appeal. My guess is because they intentionally went in underweight and knew that it might look worse if they appealed and that came out. The other theory is that they had maybe a weight fall off during the race because there are some pictures of when he hit the curbing in the chicane really hard, a piece fell off. Some people are saying that might have been a 20-pound tungsten weight or whatever, which would be a bigger penalty of having unsecured weight leave your car. So if that was the case, then still they didn't want to appeal because they would have to then prove that they violated another rule. So they just decided to take their punishment. And unfortunately for Alex, he's out of the playoffs because he's been the most consistent driver throughout the playoffs. He scored the most amount of points through the first 2 rounds. So super unfortunate for him. He's had a really good drive for a guy that, you know, a lot of people were questioning whether or not he was going to get to keep his ride this year at Hendrick Motorsports. He came in the playoffs and really performed. So super unfortunate for him that all happened because he was having a really great year, but he's out. Joey Logano is now in and on to the round of 8. 8 drivers left, 4 races.
Yeah. And Heather, you know, as we like to say around here, we do kind of like the chaos a little bit. I texted you earlier this week. Kyle Larson is the only playoff driver to win in the playoffs this year. Is that right?
To win twice in the playoffs this year. He's won twice. Let me think about who else has won. I'm trying to think of who won the first round. No, he was the only one to win in the second round of the playoffs.
Okay.
The other 2 were non-playoff drivers. In the first round, Joey Logano won. Atlanta. He won Atlanta. Then they went to Watkins Glen. Playoff. I think they all were playoff drivers in the first round, but then the second round he was the only one. Yeah, because then Kyle won at Bristol too. So yeah, they were all playoff drivers in the first round. The second round he was the only playoff driver to win, and he's the only playoff driver to win twice.
Okay. All right. As we head to Vegas, what are your thoughts? What do you like? Who do you like?
Well, when you talk to a lot of the drivers, Denny mentioned it on his podcast, and then I just about an hour ago got done talking to Ryan Blaney. He also mentioned this. This is the round that is really like the NASCAR round. Like the first two rounds had super speedway, road course, short track, super speedway, road course, or super speedway, mile and a half, road course, right? So it wasn't like, NASCAR's bread and butter of the mile and a half in the short tracks, the circle tracks, not the road courses, not these kind of wild card tracks. So this is the round that really is who's the fastest, who's the best driver, who's the best team, just like that bread and butter NASCAR. So, and what's really interesting too is that 8 drivers that are alive are 8 of the top 9 drivers all season. So you basically got the best 8 drivers. The driver that didn't make it that was in the top 8, Alex Bowman. So really either way you were going to have, the top drivers all year long in this round, which is incredible. So now you're really going to find out, who's the best team. If you look at recent performance, you have to say that the leader of the clubhouse is Kyle Larson. As we mentioned, he's the only guy with 2 wins. He, was within 5 points of winning the regular season championship, and he just spotted everybody a race because he didn't run Charlotte in the spring. So he looks like the guy to beat, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of these 8 drivers made it to the playoffs or to the Final Four and wins a championship, because these are the best 8 drivers in the garage, give or take Alex Bowman. Him and Joey are probably this season, pretty interchangeable in the way that they've run. But historically, Joey's a 2-time champion, so it's hard to not call him one of the top 8 drivers in the garage area as well. It's going to be fun. I think Vegas is going to be great. The mile and a half tracks have been the best racing in the next gen era. So I think this could be a really entertaining race. And I thoroughly expect playoff drivers to win all the races in this round. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, but I expect them to, because this is usually where the cream of the crop kind of rises to the top.
Heather, if your handicapping is kind of right, and any one of these 8 can do it, isn't that kind of exactly what NASCAR wants? You got 4 races left at some really nice tracks, kind of good old-fashioned racing, as you said, and anybody could win. I mean, that seems like a win-win for NASCAR to me.
Yeah, I think these playoffs have gone pretty much now. As much as there's been controversy about some of the officiating and some of the off-the-track things, in the Xfinity Series race on Saturday, you had a car buried in the tire barrier for like 30 seconds before NASCAR caused caution. So that kind of stuff aside, as far as how the playoffs and the races, the outcomes have played out, I think it's exactly what NASCAR wants, right? You've got a little bit of chaos. You have non-playoff drivers winning. You have all sorts of different strategies. You had some interesting guys make the playoffs that you thought maybe wouldn't, and then make runs to the round of 12. And now you're down to your top guys. Your stars are in there for the final round. It's kind of like March Madness. That's what the NCAA wants, right? They want UMBC or, Loyola Chicago or somebody to make a nice little round, but they don't want those guys to be their champion.
Right.
They want Duke or Kansas or North Carolina to be the champion. So, same thing in NASCAR, right? They loved having Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe make the playoffs and make it to the second round. They like the fact that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. won at Talladega. All those things are great for them. But at the end of the day, they want Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, those types of drivers to be their champions, because that's who everybody knows, and that's who you want to be the face of your sport.
I'm curious, Heather, with a 3-race stretch kind of coming up, are the stakes really, really heightened? If someone comes out and lays an egg in this race, are they kind of really backs against the wall, or does having 2 more to follow still kind of give you a little wiggle room for error there?
Well, I kind of asked this question to Ryan when I was talking to him earlier, and this seems like a round where you really almost have to win to advance because there's only 4 spots, right? 3 races.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, that means one person at least is going to make it in on points. But to feel really comfortable, you need a win to feel comfortable about going on because that guarantees you the next round. If you have a bad race, then you have to win. Like you're not going to point your way in unless you have 3 outstanding races. William Byron was the regular season champ last year. He was the guy that pointed his way in. And I think his worst finish in the 3 races last year was around 13th. So you really have to be really good and really consistent in order to advance out of this round because there's not that many spots left. I mean, we're getting down to it now.
Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Joey Logano are your 8 playoff drivers as we head to Las Vegas, followed by Miami and then Martinsville. Who do you like to get to Phoenix out of that 8?
Okay, well, in the attempt not to jinx anyone, which generally when I make these kind of picks is what happens. When I look at these,
let's rephrase
no,
it.
It's
then.
fine. It's fine. It's all a joke, right? Because I don't have that much control over the sports world. But I did, although maybe I do, right? Because the Royals made the playoffs, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs, so maybe. And Kansas is the number 1 ranked team in college basketball. So
how about that?
Maybe I do, but I don't. I know that I don't. When you look at these tracks, I think that I think for Christopher Bell. He's been in the last 2 championship 4s. He's the best driver in NASCAR that nobody ever talks about. Just consistent, good on all kinds of different tracks. Really good on these 4 tracks that are really the final 4 tracks, but the 3 tracks are in this round. He's really good. So I like Christopher Bell to get there. I like Kyle Larson for obvious reasons. And then after that, you look at the other 6 drivers and you could go with a lot of different combinations. I think I like Denny Hamlin. There's just something about the way these playoffs have played out for him and how in past years he hasn't been super lucky. He hasn't won a championship when he's probably the best driver that never won a championship. He's been terrible, but he's just found a way to advance. And I think that kind of like mojo luck, that back in the day, 12-10 college football game that you probably shouldn't have won, that you won anyway, that kept you in the playoffs kind of feeling to his season. So I like him. And I think I like Ryan Blaney. There's just something about they're running really consistently. He's the defending champ. He's clearly the best 4 team that there is right now. And so I like him too. But like I said, I could see any of these drivers making it to the championship 4.
Larson, Bell, Blaney, and Hamlin.
That'll be my 4.
That feels like a pretty solid foursome.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it does. Heather, you mentioned your Royals. Have you kind of gotten over their ouster?
I wasn't really that sad. I mean, I was sad because the season was over, but I mean, we won 56 games last year. How can I be upset? And we played close with the Yankees all 4 games, right? We never got blown out by the Yankees. In the regular season, we played them and got blown out by them. Never got blown out by them. Never really, I mean, the way that this team has turned things around was incredible. It was a miracle season. It was it would have been a storybook ending to, go back to the championship or any of that kind of stuff. But I mean, I will take it. The biggest thing for me is going to be how can they sustain that? Because they have a lot of guys that run 1-year contracts or 1-year plus player option type contracts, especially in the pitching staff. I think only one of those pitchers that we brought in has a 2-year deal. I think all the rest were 1 with a player option. So, there's going to be a lot of holes to fill. They still got to find a leadoff hitter. They still got to find some outfield help because the outfield batting specifically was not that great. Part of the reason why they didn't win is that, we're giving up 2 runs and can't score 2 runs to keep a pitcher in it. So, but no, I'm not sad. I mean, I'll take that. I'll take my, $20 I found on the ground and run and not be sad about it at all.
And you got to see Mahomes in the crowd every 10 seconds having a blast too. So that at least let you know
He was
he's
having a blast too.
I mean, he owns the team. Well, part of it. I mean, a small part of it, but he takes that serious. He and Brittany are so connected to the community. He's part owner of the Royals. He's got part ownership in Sporting Kansas City, and she is part owner of the KC Current, which is the women's pro soccer team. They are very connected to that town. Like they love Kansas City. They embrace it. They are all in on being Kansas Cityans, which is very cool.
That is cool to see. Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking some NASCAR, among other things, as we typically do when we get Heather on, but it's always fun. And Heather, we appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. What's your high school assignment this week? I guess you won't be back in the play-by-play seat, and that's unfortunate, but what you got going on between
so
now
I
and
usually
next?
host the show and go out and shoot one game. I have not made the schedule yet. I've looked at it. It's pretty rough. There aren't a lot of great games around here this week, so I probably won't be seeing a very good game. I should mention, Mo, if you ever want to ask me about women's college basketball now too, I am officially a voter in the AP Top 25 poll now.
Oh, congratulations and condolences, because I will tell you, having been an AP voter both on the men's and women's and in football, they will find you.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
And it won't always be pleasant when they do.
I mean,
have you voted before?
No, I have not. This is my first year doing it. But it's funny. They find me anyway, right? Because I did the play-by-play on Friday and we got emails into just one, which I was actually surprised. We only got one, but said that watching me call play-by-play was like listening to nails on the chalkboard. So, I'm kind of used to it.
Bring it on.
It's unfortunate. I hate that you have to deal with that, and I won't get started on that.
My favorite thing to do is passive aggressive, super sweet email responses, or delete and block.
See, I don't have the patience for the super sweet passive aggressive.
But it's fun.
Yeah, I just can't bring myself to do it. But okay, so you are a women's AP voter.
Yes.
Did you vote for Middle Tennessee State?
I did not. Sorry, you gonna come get me now?
Here we go.
Okay, so
it didn't take long.
Yeah, I'm gonna be one of those.
It didn't take long. You're in the crosshairs now.
Here's my thing. This is honest to God. Kind of going back to they will find you type of thing. First week, first time voting. I don't want to ruffle too many feathers. We're going to ease into this before we start. I'm a huge supporter of the mid majors, and you will, having gone to a mid major, having mostly covered mid majors, you will probably see me jump on those bandwagons pretty early. But the first week out, I wasn't quite prepared yet to have the email box filled up. So
I understand.
They were definitely a team I considered. In all honesty, they were a team I considered, and I would say they're among a handful of teams that are just waiting for one of these major teams to screw up so I can put them in there. But preseason, I kind of had to. My approach was I kind of needed to go with the established track records, because also being a fan of mid-major teams and covering them so much, you can think you have every piece in the world. You can be coming off the greatest season of all time, but every year is so different in the mid-major world. So it's harder for those teams to find the year in and year out consistency. Even when they are super talented. I watched ETSU last year. Their women's basketball team won 25 games the year before, had everybody but one player back last year, and only won 16 games. So it's just finding that consistency on that level is so hard. So they're in the mix for sure, but I need for them, maybe I'm a little harder on them because I am a mid-major fan, but I need for them to do a little proving for me first.
There we go. You were one of the 27 that voted South Carolina #1, I assume.
Of course. I was born on a day, but that day wasn't yesterday.
There we go.
Collegepolltracker.com. We're coming for you, Heather.
I don't think you'll see anything super controversial on my first ballot.
We got your back, but we'll be keeping tabs.
All right.
Absolutely. Trust but verify. There we go. Heather, thanks. We'll catch up with you next week.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Hey, when we continue here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll talk a little Major League Baseball, specifically the playoffs, but some other stuff as well. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
Do you wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios, and we're talking a little Major League Baseball postseason action as the Yankees took a 2-0 lead in the American League Championship Series with a 6-3 win at home last night against the Cleveland Guardians. Included in those 6 runs was an Aaron Judge home run, and there are some folks that will be pleasantly surprised to learn that, because to say he had been struggling heading into last night's game would probably be an understatement. He was hitting 154 through that ALDS against Kansas City and in the opening game against Cleveland before a 2-run homer last night off Hunter Gaddis. His 59th home run of the season, but his first of the postseason. So, you feel like hitters are going to hit, right? Kind of like shooters going to shoot, right, Wade?
He said it yesterday. Yeah, do not let this guy, and what a wild, do not let him get heated up. And what a wild turn of events. After he gets they intentionally walk Soto to pitch to Judge with the bases loaded. Later in the game, he comes full circle. He got the sac fly in that first at bat, and then he gets the dong. Game somewhat out of reach, but he definitely put it on ice in favor of the Yankees at that point.
You're kind of dancing with the devil when you do that, aren't you? I mean,
yeah, that's what everybody was saying in real time. We're watching the game and we're like, are they really doing this? Is this what you want to do? And it almost worked out. I mean, obviously the pitch goes just a little bit the other way, and you're talking about an out, or the pitch goes, or it was an out with the sac fly, but the pitch goes the other way, and you're talking about a grand slam at that point.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, man, we said it earlier this week, applying it to a different situation, but I guess scared money don't make money, right? I mean, we're going to take our chances with this guy that's hitting less than 200 in the postseason. Never mind who this guy is.
Crazy situation. And, you know, it sort of worked out. He didn't obviously get the big hit, but he does get the sack. And then later, comes back up, 7th inning. New York is rolling and feeling good, up 2 games in this series now.
You know, I'll tell you this, though. Stephen Vogt, in his first year as manager of the Cleveland Guardians, former Atlanta Braves catcher, I think he was there 1 year, but we're going to take credit for him. Has really, you know, turned a lot of heads with his performance up there this year.
Yeah, and I mean the moves, you know, your starting pitching doesn't come out and play well, goes to the bullpen early. And then from there, you're just kind of scrambling, trying to get through however you can, and has done a good job. This was a team, you know, they've still won 90-plus games this year. They didn't just sneak in the postseason. So they've got to where they are. Man, you know they would love to have gotten one of those 2 up there, because now all the pressure comes on them coming back home.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're in a tough situation. I mean, you are coming home, but you're coming home down 0-2 now. And so
with Judge heating up.
Clearly. Yeah. May not be exactly where you want to be if you're Cleveland, but again, at least you are coming home. So there's that. 7:08 first pitch tonight for the Dodgers at Citi Field against the Mets. And the Mets heating up.
Mets are heating up. Hey, real quick, you know who's rooting for the Guardians more than anybody is our good buddy Terry McCormick, because he's got tickets to Game 5.
That's right.
He needs the Guardians to win one of these next 2 games. He's all in on Cleveland, whether he's a Yankees fan or not.
He needs at least one, absolutely, to get to that Game 5. That's a tough spot to be in. I mean, you ask him about it over the weekend. Would you rather have the sweep, or would you rather have Game 5 that you've got tickets to? It's quite the dilemma right there.
If I knew I could get a ticket to the World Series, then I'd say give me the sweep now. I'll just spend my money down the road. But if I don't have that option, I don't have that knowledge at my disposal, then you gotta root for the Guardians. A gentleman's sweep appears very much in order at this point.
That might be your best bet right there. If Cleveland splits at home, it goes back to Yankee Stadium for Game 5, and the Yankees win that one. You get to see them close it out. I mean, that can be the best of both worlds for Terry right there. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that series now for multiple reasons, I guess. Again, the Mets hosting the Dodgers, and if you are a Dodgers fan, such as Columbia Academy Athletics Director Pernell Knox, you're kind of hoping for Shohei Ohtani to snap out as Judge did last night.
Yeah, we talked about it a couple times already. And I haven't seen a lineup just yet, but you know, you could make the case, maybe flip-flop a little bit, and have him take some ABs behind Betts, who's been phenomenal thus far. Again, haven't seen the lineup. I don't know how much real chatter there is to that idea, because Ohtani has not. He struck out at least once in every game but one in the postseason. And, you know, he's capable, just like Judge, of going nuclear at any given moment. And maybe tonight is the night that he kind of breaks out. Severino will throw for the Mets. So that place will be absolutely juiced tonight. And if Ohtani does fan in his first at bat, that place will just come unglued.
It's just funny how things change, where there was a lot of concern about Shohei not being able to get hits with the runners in scoring position. And now we're all trying to find ways to get guys on base so he can hit, right? I find that kind of comical a little bit, said Dave Roberts following game 2. The idea of moving Ohtani out of the number 1 spot in the batting order has been put to rest by the guy that makes out the batting order. Apparently, that ain't going to happen.
I mean, it probably wouldn't, but I mean, it's worth considering, especially if this continues, because kind of like Judge, he is not having a great postseason thus far. The good news is they're a super team for a reason, and they got a bunch of other guys that can beat you, and they give up 7 runs the other night, but prior to that, they only needed 1 run to win their last couple of games. So they'll find their way. I think this could be the most electric game in either league across the whole postseason tonight. It will be must-see TV, and it will be absolutely full systems go for those in Queens.
0 for 19 with the bases empty is Ohtani. 6 for 8 with someone on base. So, the numbers don't lie. Now, is it a short sample size? Possibly. But, I mean, your point is made. I mean, and when you're batting leadoff, at least the first time you come up, there's nobody on base. So it is certainly something that bears discussing, but apparently you're not going to discuss it with Dave Roberts, or Dave Roberts ain't going to discuss it with you. I don't know, but it's an interesting thought process for sure. But when the batting order comes out for the Dodgers for game 3, if what Dave Roberts said after game 2 is any indication, look for Ohtani to be at the top of the order.
And they've walked him a time or two already in this season, in this series, but they ain't walking him with on the leadoff. AB, I can tell you that much. So
no, and why would you walk a guy who's 0 for 19? So, yeah. Take your chances with him, kind of like Cleveland did with Judge last night. That's, again, walking a guy ahead of Judge to pitch to him with the bases loaded does not sound like a recipe for success, but sometimes you got to go with your gut.
Yeah, I mean, it almost worked to perfection, too. The internet came unglued. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. I'm sitting there watching, doing a double take, like, is this really happening? But it almost paid off, if not for that sac fly.
Well, and still, I mean, you'd rather give up 1 than 4, I guess. I mean, you kind of consider that a little bit of a victory. We got him out.
Yeah, that's true. You do record the out at that point. That is true.
Yeah. We showed you the effect of Hurricane Milton on Tropicana Field, the home of the Tampa Bay Rays, late last week, I guess it was. And it has pretty well been confirmed that Tropicana Field won't be ready for the Rays season opener in late March as a result of the damage that was done by the hurricane. About the only thing that seems certain is that the team won't be able to open the 2025 Major League Baseball season at home as planned on March 27, according to Mark Topkin of the Tampa Bay Times, which begs the question, if not there, where?
Yeah,
and
I mean, this is a tough situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing is that they are in the middle of spring training centers, headquarters for a number of major league teams, and they could play there, and given their attendance, it probably wouldn't be a great loss to play at a spring training facility. The idea of possibly sharing the Marlins' home stadium, Lone Depot Park, has been thrown out there. But one, it's not that close, I don't think, from Miami to Tampa. And two, do the Marlins really want to share their stadium? Obviously, they wouldn't be playing at the same time, but still, that's a lot of wear and tear. It's going to be something to watch. And somebody tweeted that the city of Oakland could do the funniest thing right now.
Man, they certainly could. Obviously, the Nashville faithful were, saying, "Hey, come on up here, and we'll give you a test run." But I'm thinking maybe them and the Marlins can combine, play doubleheaders, and then you get to count the attendance for both games individually, and maybe that will help solve a dilemma for everybody.
I like that. Doubleheaders. Yeah. Miami fans might like that too.
Yeah, two games one day. Yeah, it's about 4 hours away. Not exactly a hop, skip, and a jump like you said, but this is a tough situation that, they got a new park coming in a couple of years, but you're kind of trying. I don't know what the plans are for the Tropicana field as after that one is complete. So presumably you want to restore it to as much working order as you can in the short term.
Yeah. It's between now and I think the new park is supposed to open in 28. So I mean, you gotta get it restored. I don't think you can just punt on that for the next 3 years. So that'll be something to keep an eye on as the Major League Baseball season, the 2025 season, gets closer. Hour number one of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today is in the books. When we return to the Lee Company studios for hour number two, we will be talking grab bag that is mostly full of NFL stuff and a lot of it. So stay tuned when we return here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday starts now on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In the final segment of the show, we will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. And trust me when I tell you, it is all of that and then some. We will also visit in the next segment with ANWAR Richardson of orangebloods.com, talking a little Georgia, Texas, number 1 versus number 5. Number 5 versus number 1. As I mentioned, number 5, Georgia, traveling to top-ranked Texas. And again, we'll get Anwar's insight into that here in the next segment. Right now, though, we are getting into the grab bag. And as we mentioned before the break, a lot of NFL news in the grab bag, starting with former New England Patriots, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers, current Fox Sports broadcaster Tom Brady is now a part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. We had heard that this was something that the Raiders and Brady were pursuing as far back as the summer. And it was, I guess it became official yesterday at the owners meeting when it was approved. But, you know, 2 things. One, this means that Brady won't be coming out of retirement to play again unless he sells his stake in the team. There are no player owners in the NFL. And 2, this will really impact his ability to be a broadcaster. The league placed restrictions on Brady. He won't be able to attend production meetings either in person or virtually. He won't have access to team facilities, players, or coaching personnel. He can broadcast Raider games, but he cannot publicly criticize game officials or other clubs. So it would seem to me that inability to attend production meetings and have access, to players and get that extra insight that we so often hear out of the booth during a broadcast would really kind of render him ineffective in that role. Would you not think, Wade?
Well, yeah, I would say so. And I've listened to a couple different broadcasters in the run up to the start of the season and in the first couple weeks that have mentioned that, yeah, that's where they're getting most of their information. And they had speculated that, Tom not being able to attend those. The good news is it's Tom Brady. If anybody knows the game and he's just recently retired. He has got a decent framework, but yeah, that's where you're picking up the nuggets. And so if nothing else, he's kind of relying on the rest of the crew that are in those meetings to be able to do that. So far, after a real dud, I think across all measures in week 1, he's definitely improved as he's gone along in terms of his broadcast abilities. Just like anything, just the more reps he gets, he's going to get better at it. But yeah, that certainly was part of it. He got the votes yesterday. he's part in. Him and Richard Seymour's in the mix
Right.
too. So the crew's getting in there. And the bigger point is he's got to sell before he could potentially come back and play again. So if you're a team in need of a quarterback, you can strike him off the list in the short term, it looks like.
Absolutely. I misspoke. The deal was initially agreed upon in May of 2023.
He just officially voted, I think, yesterday, though.
Yeah. Owners took more than a year to approve it because there were some questions as to whether or not majority owner, I guess, Mark Davis, was giving Brady too much of a discount, according to this article on NPR.org. So, Chiefs owner Clark Hunt, there were a lot of things from a structural and due diligence standpoint that had to happen, which is why it took so long for it to be approved. And we finally got all that put to bed. So, I mean, I guess if you are the Raiders and you have kind of floundered the way they have, the idea of having someone as football savvy as Tom Brady in your camp is, a pretty big deal. 7-time Super Bowl champ. I'm eager to contribute to the organization in any way I can, honoring the Raiders' rich tradition while finding every possible opportunity to improve our offering to fans and, most importantly, win football games, he said in a social media post. California kid, originally. The Raiders, originally a California franchise, so I'm sure there's a lot of connection there. But it feels a little odd that two former Patriots are now part owners of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, absolutely. And they really went after him, and he ends up in Tampa. But it felt like they might be the ones that win the Brady sweepstakes when he did depart New England. So he kind of gets in. Kind of links up with Davis, which will be interesting. He lost millions and millions in that FTX deal, like a lot of celebrities did when that caved a couple of years ago. So Brady trying to recoup. And this is a big kind of public forward-facing. I was still kind of floored that he eventually pursued the broadcasting angle, because this was a very private and kind of buttoned-up guy for all of his career. And kind of post-retirement, he's really almost made it a point, looking at you with the Netflix special. I mean, he's really kind of made it a point to kind of be out there and kind of be back in the public spotlight. And this is another, relatively safe, I suppose, endeavor for him. And yeah, kind of get to still be around the game.
Well, and I guess, being single as he is, he's got some time on his hands. So maybe that's a part of it as well. It is interesting how
that was a good Netflix joke from the roast there.
We talked about Devontae Adams getting traded from the Raiders to the Jets yesterday. That wasn't the only trade that took place yesterday. We had 3 trades of significance, another of which involved a receiver, as Cleveland sent Amari Cooper to Buffalo. Along with a 6th-round pick, Cleveland will get a future 3rd-round pick and a 7th-round pick in exchange for Cooper. So the Bills get Josh Allen some additional weapons on the outside. And Cam Akers is headed back to Minnesota again as the Houston Texans traded the running back. They will get a conditional 6th and 7th round pick, but the conditions weren't initially reported. So Akers will line up behind former Green Bay Packers running back Aaron Jones, giving them some depth at that position. You've also got former Montgomery Bell Academy standout Ty Chandler in the running back rotation for the Vikings. So not sure as a local how much we care for that trade, because Ty needs his touches, man.
Yeah, bolstering a little depth there in the backfield. Jones has been running great thus far for Minnesota, but on the other end of the trade, this is a massive trade, in my opinion, for Buffalo, because after the Diggs falling out with him and Allen and, his eventual departure, they're getting by. But I mean, you can only rely on Khalil Shakur and Dalton Kincaid so much. This gives them. Amari Cooper is not a straight up All Pro anymore. He's right on the cusp. We saw him have a great season last year in Cleveland under Flacco, really, especially down the stretch. But now the fact that we have a little bit of a new, it's almost like the Bills said, hey, the Jets made a move. We know they're not giving up. You basically feel like it's a two-team race between the Jets and the Bills. And so the Bills went out and made a nice pickup there as they take advantage of Cleveland going into a full dumpster fire mode.
Man, they are. That's nuts where they find themselves right now, for sure.
It's bad. They're tanking because they're continuing to play Deshaun Watson. That's how you know they're tanking. If they were to change quarterbacks, you might think they're actually going to try and win games. But by keeping Watson out there, it is clear that, they've given up on this season.
And isn't that something? I mean, I know that he's been through a lot. He's brought a lot on himself. But, I mean, how did Deshaun Watson get so bad so quick?
Forgot how to play football, apparently. Learned how to do a lot of other things, but certainly forgot how to play football.
Man.
And you got Jameis right there, who is being kind of rumored as dangled around, or Dorian Thompson-Robinson kind of dangling around as a trade piece. But again, if they were serious, if they were a serious franchise right now,
one of them would be QB1.
One of them would be starting because Watson has been absolutely putrid.
You've heard the old joke that the NCAA got so pissed off at Kentucky that they put Cleveland State on probation. Well, Jerry Jones is so pissed off at his Dallas Cowboys team that he is threatening to fire local radio hosts. And doubled down on it after, I guess it's his weekly appearance on a local show in Dallas on 105.3 The Fan, saying he doesn't have time to look back on personnel decisions and that he'll get somebody else to ask these questions. And then later said, the facts are that if I'm going to be grilled by the tribunal, I don't need it to be by the guys I'm paying. I can take it from fans and take it from other people. I take a lot of pride in how fair and how much I try to work with the media. We're brothers and sisters. Now, if those had been real fans sitting there, or if there had been people that knew what they were talking about, football people, I might have had a different answer. So Jerry Jones clearly considers himself to be a football person, because he bought a team.
Yeah, and you want to talk about unserious. I think we've reached the point that deep down, sure, he wants to win, but he's more concerned about making money at this point and staying in the national spotlight, because that is so much of the attention brought up on these offseason moves. They were really stagnant. Yeah, you signed CD, and you got Prescott inked again. I mean, they kind of have just been sitting there and he's in a perfect situation. He can't lose, right? Everybody is going to tune in to either hate watch his team or love watch his team, and he's just going to pile in the cash. Meanwhile, the team is just perfectly mediocre enough and has enough stars and star power to kind of be right there in the mix as we go forward.
It feels, Wade, like we felt about the Chicago Cubs for a long time. I mean, you're going to watch them whether they're good or not. So where is really the motivation to be good? And like you said, the Dak and the CD signings really kind of feel like stagnation, like you said, because I mean, where's the improvement there? I mean, you're just keeping guys that were already in place. There wasn't any move to try to get better. I mean, maybe it was a move to not get worse, but there wasn't a move to get better. It's just and it's so arrogant on his part, which is nothing new. But people have jobs to do, and asking tough questions when you're in that position kind of comes with the territory. And when you've put yourself in position to have to be asked those tough questions, show a little grace and respect for those people doing their job, but I'm not sure that that's in Jerry's wheelhouse.
Not necessarily in his wheelhouse, and that doesn't move the needle. And it's all about moving the needle with that franchise and that ownership these days.
Yep.
Because that's about all they got going for them.
I had to look up LXII in Roman numerals because I felt like it was 62. I thought I knew my Roman numerals well enough to know that that's what that was. But when it was announced that Atlanta will host Super Bowl LXII in 28, it didn't compute with me that that would be the 62nd Super Bowl. But LXII is 62, and Atlanta will host that event in 4 years at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I kind of lost sight of the fact that the event was that old, but sure enough, it is. And again, it'll be in Atlanta in 2028. This will be the 4th time that the Super Bowl has been played in Atlanta, the 2nd time in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That was announced yesterday during the league meetings. It'll be shown on CBS. Atlanta's first Super Bowl was in 94. Cowboys built in Super Bowl 28. Returned in 2000. Locals are familiar with that one. That was the Rams and the Titans. And then in 2019, it was the Patriots and the Rams in Super Bowl 53, just 2 years after MBS had opened. So it'll be back again in 28, following this year's event in New Orleans, Super Bowl 60 at Levi Stadium, and 61 at SoFi Stadium. So Goodell in the announcement said that it's thought that Vegas, New Orleans, Miami, and LA will be regulars in a Super Bowl rotation. And it'll be interesting because, again, the new stadium here in Nashville will open in 2027, and you would think that once it opens, it's just a matter of time until they get a Super Bowl here or we get a Super Bowl here. So something to look forward to, but it's going to Atlanta in 28. Continuing to dig deep into the grab bag, WNBA action cranks back up tonight out in Minnesota as the Lynx host the Liberty. Again, that series is tied 1 apiece. Minnesota picking up the first win in New York before the Liberty rallied back for an 80-66 win on Sunday. So, who's got the momentum going into this one? The Lynx coming home or the Liberty coming off a win, Wade?
Man, you would think that would be the Lynx coming back home, but it feels like they've still, even though they won that first game, it feels like they've kind of been outplayed in this series. And I'm going to give the edge to the Liberty, and maybe I'll be wrong tomorrow, but I got to go with New York going into this one.
It'll be interesting. And on a short schedule tonight, it'll certainly be worth watching. So tune in for that. Let's take a break from the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will be joined by ANWAR Richardson of OrangeBloods.com, talking a little Georgia, Texas, possibly the most anticipated game of the Southeastern Conference schedule to this point. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Stick around for that. Right now, we're pleased to be joined by OrangeBloods.com's ANWAR Richardson. And ANWAR, we wanted to check in with you just to see if you think there's any chance that the Texas Longhorns are overlooking this number 5 Georgia team coming in here this weekend for that game a week from Saturday at Vanderbilt.
Wait. I was like, where the hell is he going? I'm like,
tell us the truth, Anwar. Tell us the truth.
I mean,
nobody's overlooking Vanderbilt right now. So, I mean, there's that's hilarious. Obviously big game coming up this weekend. That was a really funny thing. Big game coming up this weekend for Texas, obviously hosting Georgia. Game day will be here, descending upon Austin. So, that's going to be a good time. Matthew McConaughey is going to pop out, out of bushes because, the cameras are around. So, it's there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of anticipation, for this game. The Vanderbilt game, of course, next week, of course. But, a lot of hype and anticipation for Texas, kind of a real barometer for what this program is and where they are and where they're trying to go, especially first year in the SEC being 6-0. But this is the biggest test that they would have had thus far. They've had a lot. They're dominating. Like, I'll say this. There's nobody in the country that's dominating the way that Texas is dominating. Now, there's teams who are winning. Let's be clear. Oregon's winning. Like, Oregon's undefeated as well. But I'm talking about dominating the teams that are in front of them. Texas, right now, guys, through 6 games, they're giving them an average of 6.3 points a game. That ain't close. When you're talking about a touchdown, less than a touchdown a game, that's what I'm saying. They are dominating their opponents. Obviously, I don't expect domination to happen against Georgia, but when it's all about, hey, you got to beat the teams that are in front of you. Texas is beating those teams, and we've seen week after week, especially in the SEC, we see one close game after another. We saw Georgia go toe-to-toe and life or death against Mississippi State, And we all believe that Mississippi State's the worst team in this conference. But all of a sudden, that happened. So Texas hasn't had it like that. And I think this will be their first real test.
You said it. Dominated 52-0 against Colorado State, 31-12 against Wade's Wolverines, 56-7 against Texas.
By the way, that was on the road.
Yeah, at Michigan, 56-7 against Texas San Antonio, 51-3 against Louisiana Monroe, 35-13 against Mississippi State, and 34-3 in the Red River rivalry this past weekend against Oklahoma. I mean, ANWAR, Texas was expected to be good. Did you expect this?
No. I would love to sit here and BS you. It's like, man, of course that, man. If I knew that, I'd be playing the Powerball tonight, and I won't be doing these interviews anymore. I'll just be sitting at home, relaxing. No, I enjoy you. I love you. So there's nothing like that. But no, I thought Texas was prepared for the SEC. I thought that Texas was really prepared, and I thought they would do well in the SEC because of what Steve Sarkisian understood when he got the job. He understood that in order to compete in this conference, he said he understood that they got to get bigger and better on the offensive line, get bigger and better on the defensive line. And they went out and they recruited those guys. They developed those kind of guys. And so you can see, you saw it last year in Tuscaloosa when Texas went to Alabama and beat them by double digits. That was kind of like a glimpse of it. But then you're seeing it a lot more this year, that kind of that building there. There's also, they've done a great job in the transfer portal. They lost guys that went into the NFL from this receiver standpoint. You guys all know about Xavier Worthy, who put up the fastest combine time, but they lost him. They lost Adonai Mitchell, who got drafted by the Colts, and they lost another receiver by the name of Jordan Whittington, who's doing pretty good with the Rams, right? So they lose three guys. He thinks to himself, all right, now what you going to do here? And he just said, all right, we'll just go out and transfer portal. And they went out and got themselves an Isaiah Bond. They went out and got them, who was from Alabama. They went out and got a Matthew Golden from Houston. They got Silas Bolden from Oregon State. So all of a sudden you have new guys there. But then they got a Ryan Wingo, who's a 5-star freshman, who's been spectacular so far. And so all of a sudden on this team, you have the guys who they have developed. But the thing that Sark does really well is that when it goes to the transfer portal, a lot of guys are just like shopping, right? Like you take your kids to 5 and below, right? I don't care, like $20, like, and they're just picking up everything off the shelf. He's very selective about the guys that they get and try to make sure that those guys can contribute in some point. They also have a lot of guys who rotated on a defensive line standpoint that were from the transfer portal. So there's a good blend. So I thought Texas would be good. Now, I had them at 10-2 before the season. But
who'd you have them losing to?
I had them losing to Georgia and Kentucky. Those were my two. Now, the Georgia one for obvious reason, Kentucky, because if you look at their schedule, they have a bye week, and then they have a real cupcake opponent right after that bye week. And so, and then it's seriously, it's if you look it up for me, you can tell me what it is. It's a real cupcake opponent right before the bye week. It's a bye week, cupcake, Texas. So I looked at that and that said, okay, Kentucky technically has 2 weeks to prepare for Texas, and they're pretty good on defense. So those were my two losses. So I still need to see what Texas does in this back half of the schedule.
Yeah, and Anwar, to your point, Oregon is surviving and winning games. We haven't seen – it feels like when that super team kind of is there, it's because they're winning games big. Even in games with massive spreads, they're taking care of business. And, 52-0 versus Colorado State, beating Michigan when Michigan was still Michigan, 31-12, and then taking care of teams like UTSA 56-7, to your point. But the game that I want to ask you about, Oklahoma has really given them kind of a bugaboo the last couple of years, kind of like the Tennessee-Florida situation we talked about. And they dominated Oklahoma. For me, that was their most impressive win, considering the history and kind of the demons they exercised. That, to me, says Texas is for real, and they are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you're right. And the thing is, if you do the math on it, Yes, Texas goes out and they dominate and they end up winning that game, which was a game like, again, I expected Texas to win.
Right.
I wasn't necessarily expecting them to just do what they did to Oklahoma the way that they did. But here's what's interesting, though. In 2 of the last 3 games that Texas has played against Oklahoma in the Red River, you know what that score is? You know what that combined score is? It is 83-3. In 2 of the last 3, they won 49-0 2 years ago. They lost last year, but still made the playoffs. And then they dominated this year with the 34-3. So literally, Texas, that's where Oklahoma is and where they're going is probably a different subject for a different day. But Texas has been able to go out. And what's crazy about that game and how much they dominated in that game, Quinn Ewers wasn't really on fire in that game. Like, he wasn't, if you look at his numbers, it was okay, but it was his first game back from an injury, and he played okay, but they didn't need him to do anything spectacular. Because at the end of the day, they had all bases covered. Oklahoma was not going to be able to move the ball against them. They didn't have a quarterback that could move the ball against them. And of course, their defense has been lights out. They've got one of the best pass defenses in the country. That's from a statistical standpoint. That's not me talking about it. That's what the numbers say. They got one of the best pass defenses in the country. They're really good at stopping the run. They're good on third downs. Their offense is ranked 7th in the country at this moment. Their scoring offense is ranked 7th in the country. They have the number 1 ranked total defense in the country. Men lie, women lie, the numbers don't. So I'll just give you the numbers. 6.3 points a game. There's a lot of different things. And so, yeah, I guess in hindsight, maybe I should have seen it coming. But after it happens, I still factored in it's a rivalry game. Like, I still factored in anything could happen. It's a rivalry game.
Mm-hmm.
Teams get up for this, all that. What I just haven't factored in is that so far as this year, it doesn't matter. Like, they literally have been a machine. Now that being said, they will face a real quarterback this week, because they have not faced a real quarterback in the games that they played, in their 6 games that they played. Like, if I'm just being quite real, all due respect to Michael Hawkins, all due respect to what they had going on in Michigan, that's not Carson Beck. Like, that this is next level. So now I think we'll have a little bit more of a barometer. We'll know a little bit more. If Texas loses, they're still in the playoff hunt. So that's not a fatal blow by any stretch. But I think I'll know a little bit more as to how good this team really, really is once we get past this weekend.
ANWAR Richardson of OrangeBloods.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Again, number 5 Georgia travels to number 1 Texas Saturday. That's a 6:30 Central Time kick. It's kind of the Adonai Mitchell Bowl, as he transferred from Georgia to Texas to finish up his collegiate career, the former Cane Ridge standout here in Nashville. But you talked about Mitchell, you talked about Worthy, you talked about reloading at the receiver position. You guys had, Texas had some injuries at running back during the preseason, and none of that seems to have slowed them down. Again, Ewers missed some time early in the year, and Arch Manning tried to make it a quarterback controversy. Obviously, that's not the case, but I mean, the depth, as much as anything, has really spoken well for Texas, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a really fair and a really good observation on your part, because you're right. They lost their starting running back before the season, C.J. Baxter. And you're like, okay, there you go. And then they lost a backup running back, Christian Clark. So, now all of a sudden you're like, okay, now really, what are they going to end up doing? And, and then they end up going with Jaden Blue, who was the number 2 guy. They throw in Quintavious Wisner, who's also played some receiver. And they have just not really skipped a beat from the running back perspective. they've been really, they've been fine as far as that thing concerned. The only bad part is maybe they've had some guys that put the ball on the ground a little bit too much. And that's probably one area that Texas could get better at, but they've been fine from there. To your point, it's rare where you can just say to yourself, damn, our starting quarterback's going to be out. I guess we got to throw in a Manning just to get by, huh?
Tough stitch.
Yeah, this is like, they talk about first world problems. All right, well, throw in the Manning guy. Let's see if we can get through the next couple of weeks. Like, they've been able to Sark has done a great job of getting guys to buy in and being able to say, okay, listen, you may have to wait your time. You may have to wait your turn, but good things will happen to you when it's all said and done. He's able to point to a guy like Roschon Johnson. I know you guys follow the NFL. Roschon Johnson was a backup to Bijan Robinson when he was here. But Roschon Johnson ends up getting drafted. It's easy to sell it to the running back room. Wait your turn, fill in your roles because you're going to be okay. Jordan Whittington was a role player when he was here. But you see he's doing good things at the Rams. Keelan Robinson, he was a 4th-string guy. And he ended up getting drafted last year. That's like, Texas had so many guys drafted. So it's easier to sell to guys where, you're not having guys who are getting anxious because they're saying to themselves, if I stay in this program, that I've got the opportunity to eventually go pro. And so that's why you're able to stockpile the talent, keep the talent. And when they do have guys going in transfer portals, they haven't had a major loss at all. But it is a credit, though, to the development of these guys, to the strength and conditioning program. Like, Sark is doing a really good job. Like, this is, what could maybe potentially could have been at USC, wasn't meant to be, but this is what he's able to now build here at Texas. And so you add in his coaching ability, his ability to develop talent, and then the resources that they have here, he should be able to keep this thing humming for a pretty long time.
Feels like he's got them going in the right direction. It feels like they've not only turned into a player, but kind of that superpower or that machine, as you described earlier, ANWAR. I guess my question is, it seems like the onus in this situation is on Georgia to win the game. How does either Georgia win this or how does Texas lose this in your mind?
Well, the onus is on Georgia. There's a couple of things as relates to the Georgia conversation, right? The main thing for Georgia is they can't afford another loss because now you talk about 2 losses and you're trying to make the playoffs. Now you're talking about really, really slim margins. You could probably get in with 2. If you have a loss against Bama and you have a loss against Texas, you're probably in the playoffs. You drop one more, though. And look, they hair their chin against Kentucky, right? Yep. Life and death battle versus Mississippi State. You drop one more after Texas. If you lose this, you're in trouble. For Texas, they still have another mulligan. If it happens, you say, okay, you have 1 loss on your resume. Dick's got 2 more when it's all said and done. So I think when you start talking about, okay, well, what would Texas need to do in order to win this? One, they got to win the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line is one of the best offensive lines in the country. And so, that Georgia defensive line isn't what they used to be. And so Texas has got to be able to win up front. They've got to be able to give Quinn Ewers some time and give him a clean pocket so he can go and operate because they've got fast receivers. And the one thing that Sarkisian does a great job of is that he gets those guys in motion. He gets them in space. And because he schemes that up, he's got a bunch. He's got speed. And so if they can give him some time and protect him so he can get that thing going, he should be okay. And I think from a Texas defensive perspective, they've got to capitalize on the turnovers. Carson Beck is going to give you opportunities to get some interceptions. Like, he's going to do that. That's going to happen. That happens just about every week. And Texas has got to be able to say, all right, when he once or twice be able to take that ball and do some good things with it. If they're able to do that, win the turnover battle for sure, and get Quinn going with some protection, I believe that's what happens. The way that Texas loses this is through turnovers. And if they have some turnovers and let Georgia get some momentum, that's going to be a little bit tough for them. But if they can do the opposite, then they've got a very good shot of pulling this off.
I also find it interesting, that we've seen Georgia, as you said, hair of the chin, and obviously the loss. The recipe, it feels like, to beat Georgia is already kind of out there. Whereas nobody's really even come close to Texas at this point, where Georgia's trying to invent something from scratch in many regards.
Yeah, I mean, when coaches say it's a new team, it's a new year. Like this is, it sounds like cliche, using shoulder shrug it, but this kind of is a new team. It is a new year. The one thing that Texas has been able to do really effectively is they've been able to affect the quarterback without having to blitz much. And so they will blitz. Like they've got guys like a Colin Simmons who will come off the edge, and they've got Anthony Hill, a linebacker, who, if you just write that name down and memorize it, 2 years from now, you will be the smartest man in the room when you start saying, oh man, Anthony Hill, I've been talking about that guy since 2024, because he's a future first round pick at the linebacker position. So he's that good. You'll see him on Saturday. But they've been, like I said, they've been rocking, they've been rolling, and like you said, they've got a shot. They've got a good shot. But again, this will be a test. They've been able to, like I said, try to get the ball. They've been able. They don't have to blitz a lot, and so what that enables them to do is to drop some guys into coverage, and they've got enough speed at the linebacker position. They've got enough speed, really, even for their edge players, where they don't have to do a lot of fancy things. They can keep a lot of things in front of them. They're not giving up deep balls. So that's where Texas is from that perspective.
ANWAR Richardson of orangebloods.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, giving us a little insight into Saturday night's 6:30 kickoff between Georgia and host Texas. ANWAR, appreciate you taking some time with us here on this Wednesday afternoon, and look forward to catching up with you here soon, as it looks like the Longhorns are going to be in this thing for the long haul.
One, you feel free to hit me up anytime. Second, as a boy who was raised down in Lakeland, Florida, to see a Piggly Wiggly is still around just did my heart so good. I was like, we still got Piggly Wigglies? What?
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Holding it down.
Man, because I was, and there we had the Piggly Wiggly, a Winn-Dixie, and then if you had money, you went to a Publix. That's like, ooh, you fancy. So to know that there's still Piggly Wiggly holding it down, props to you guys. You took me back on memory lane, so it's good talking to you.
The OG, we appreciate it, man. We'll catch up with you soon. When we continue here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it'll be the final segment of the day. It's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Let's get wild. Let's get wacky when we return to the Lee Company studios after this.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we're not going to keep you waiting any longer. Again, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We've got some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. We will start with a story that we dove into. Was it last week or was it the week before? Recently. We have recently discussed Nibi, the baby beaver in Massachusetts who was taken in by a rescue organization because of some injuries and that kind of thing. The 2-year-old beaver will be allowed to stay with her rescuers as at the direction of Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey. A permit was issued to Newhouse Wildlife Rescue for Nebe to remain at the rehabilitation facility and serve as an educational animal. Nebe has captured the hearts of many of our residents, mine included, Healy said. We're excited to share that we have issued a permit for Nebe to remain in Newhouse's care, continuing to educate the public about this important species. I'm a little confused at why this was such a issue as to whether she could stay with the rescue home or not, but apparently more than 25,000 signatures on an online petition, and the governor kind of swayed folks in the right direction on this matter. Nebe was found on the side of the road, and the rescue group tried to reunite her with nearby beavers who could have been her parents but were unsuccessful. Attempts to get her to bond with other beavers also didn't work, so she would have kind of been out there by herself. And as a baby beaver, with winter coming on, she would have really been in danger had this decision not been reached. So Nebe is safe, and she's got a home, and life is good.
Love to hear that. And I'm like you. I'm like kind of curious as to how this took so long or how we got to this process. I'm also considering I might need to move to Massachusetts because they got things going on so good up there that the governor, is weighing in on animal rights decisions there, and for the good as well. So, with all due respect to Maura Healey, I mean, other governors are not necessarily tasked with that. So that's how good Massachusetts got it right now. They can weigh in on these types of decisions here. I love that.
Yeah, taking care of the things that matter. There we go.
Yeah, getting it done, and good to see that it worked out. You would certainly like to not have to resort to 25,000 signatures, but good to know that Nebe is protected there finally.
Yeah, exactly. We will from time to time in this segment cover Guinness World Record situations.
Mm-hmm.
There's a man in Idaho who holds the most concurrent Guinness World Records, but has reclaimed one of his titles by throwing 28 metal chopsticks. Chopsticks aren't meant to be thrown, by the way, but David Rush threw 28 metal chopsticks into an archery target in 1 minute. David Rush on YouTube, he is Record Breaker Rush. Originally back in 2020, he broke the previous record with 19 successfully thrown chopsticks in a minute. His record was broken by someone who managed 21. And so he went back again and did it 28 times from 13 feet away. So it's pretty funny when you look at the Guinness World Records and some of the things that are world records. And I guess you've almost got to kind of be studying the book or the website to come up with some of this stuff, because otherwise you wouldn't, I don't think. Who thinks to throw chopsticks?
Yeah. This is a wild one for me to unpack, because you've got the man who holds the record for the most concurrent records, and he's probably got to evaluate all of the ones that he can maybe get either quickly or relatively easy, and this is the one that he lands on. Didn't necessarily, like you, think throwing chopsticks would end up as a world record, but here we are. But I love the fact, though, that his record gets broken, and the story says sending him back into training for the record. So, I'm thinking like a Rocky IV, like montage, get some music, just absolutely pumping for my guy here as he gets ready. And from 13 feet away, I mean, it's not as if he's tossing this from 6 feet away. I mean, you got to have some decent accuracy here. We just talked about Deshaun Watson earlier. The Cleveland Browns could probably do a little bit better than maybe to bring this guy in and his accuracy at this point.
Well, and not just accuracy, but you got to have a little velo to get a chopstick to stick.
Yeah, I mean, and smashing that previous record. He says, okay, you got 21, I got 28. It wasn't as if he just eclipsed it by one mark here.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this will be one. I am curious now what other potential record gets broken of his that will send him back into more training, or maybe he just comes up with a brand new one at this point. So I love every bit of this story here.
It's crazy. It's wild. It's wacky. You know what else is wild? Being trapped in your house because there's upwards of 50 and perhaps as many as 100 raccoons in your yard. A woman in Washington's Kitsap County had to flee her property after 50 to 100 raccoons descended upon it and were acting aggressively. Decades ago, she started feeding a family of raccoons, and it was fine until about 6 weeks ago when the number showing up went from a handful to around 100. She said those raccoons were becoming increasingly more aggressive, demanding food, that they would hound her day and night, scratching at the outside of her home, at the door. If she pulled up her car, they would surround the car, scratch at the car, surround her if she went from her front door to her car or went outside at all. They saw this as a food source now, so they kept coming back to it, and they kept expecting food. Well, it's funny how that works. But this is a nuisance problem kind of her own making that she has to deal with. Man. By law in Washington, it is illegal to feed large carnivores such as bears or cougars. While municipalities or counties may have local statutes forbidding the feeding of other wildlife, it is currently not against state law to do so. Regardless, the agency discourages people from feeding wildlife. This poor lady has found that out the hard way, apparently.
Yeah,
don't feed the raccoons. Word gets around.
Yeah, the word gets around, and I don't like this story, Mo. I just literally last night watched Cujo, and it's hitting a little too close to home. And when you talk about surrounding the car and scratching, and that was one dog. I mean, you're talking 50 to 100. Would you rather go up against one rabid dog or 100 raccoons? I don't really know that I know the answer to that question.
I don't know that I know the answer to that one either.
Out.
Yeah, I think that I'm probably putting my house on the market at that point. I mean, one raccoon is kind of cool. They're kind of cute. You see them out and about, that kind of thing. And you've seen that they can be domesticated, but 50 to 100 surrounding your car and your house, no. I'm good.
Yeah, no, I'm good on that. It's our state animal, and you got T-Rack, of course, who's nice and lovable, but I don't want 50 or 100 T-Racks hanging out in my front yard either.
I'm not even sure I want 2 T-Rex, to be honest. I think one is enough. If you'll recall, the late Pat Summitt had an episode with a raccoon. She tried to swat one off of her deck and wound up injuring her shoulder, I think, in that encounter. So, I mean, as cute as they may be, again, as we've said so often during this segment of this show, you might want to just leave animals alone.
Yeah, you start feeding one, it's all cute and cuddly, but then when 100 start showing up, man, and I love that. I was feeding it food. Well, okay, that's how it starts.
There we go. Well, we weren't ready for 100 to feed 100 raccoons. I mean, the raccoons have to show a little reality here too. Come on now. Don't come 100 at a time. I mean, maybe if you come 5 or 6 at a time, she thinks it's the same 5 or 6. You know, pick your spots. But
Yeah, now you're onto something too, a little strategy there.
They got greedy. They got greedy. You know who else got greedy? A woman trying to smuggle 29 turtles into Canada across a Vermont lake. This woman was arrested with a heavy duffel bag in a kayak. They found 29 live eastern box turtles individually wrapped in socks. Now, I don't know how big eastern box turtles are, but apparently they are valuable on the Chinese black market for as much as $1,000 a piece.
Holy moly.
Yeah. This woman was living in Canada, but she was originally from Hong Kong. She was trying to smuggle the turtles into Canada so that they could be sold for a profit in Hong Kong. Recently pled guilty to 1 count of unlawfully attempting to export and send, again, 29 eastern box turtles out of the U.S. Scheduled for a December sentencing, facing 10 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000.
Golly, yeah. I didn't know that the consequences would be so steep for the box turtle market.
Yeah. I would have never thought to try to smuggle or sell turtles, but apparently, I guess if you can get away with it, it's pretty lucrative.
Well, and I'm wondering too, how does law enforcement find out about this? What kind of hot tip do you get that and lets you know, hey, we got one. Oh, we got a homicide? No. We got a robbery? No. We got a box turtle theft going down. Yeah, and the Canadian Mounted Police getting involved in this. I mean, this is a multi group effort here to try and stop this. So I'm glad justice was at least held up on this North American conglomerate here. But man, I'm really curious how the tip went down, if it was a concerned citizen that noticed or how this happened.
I'm picturing Dudley Do-Right calling the Border Patrol and saying, hey, y'all need to get on this turtle smuggling deal. Man, New England is crazy. Recently in Maine, a wife carrying contest was held. An annual event involving dirt, beer, and cash in Newry, Maine, once again drew dozens of eager competitors to a ski resort. More than 30 couples competed in the North American Wife Carrying Championship, a 278-yard race during which contestants splash through water, leap over logs, and trudge through mud while carrying their partner like a sack of potatoes. We don't know where this originated from or what got it started, but it's a competition. Competing couples did not have to be married, nor did they have to be a man and a woman, but they carried their competing partner typically by carrying the wife upside down like a backpack, keeping the runner's arms free for greatest agility. The champion leaves with the weight of the wife in beer and 5 times the wife's weight in cash.
If you're going to enter that, you better win it.
You need to win it. Absolutely. That's going to do it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday. That's going to do it for Main Street Sports today. We'll see y'all at 2 tomorrow.